for sure that would be a big hurdle if we're closer to the holidays.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the April 11th Planning Board meeting. My name is John Heichel. I'll be chairing the meeting this evening. Could we go around the table for an introduction, please?
I'm Brian Rose. I'm the Planning and Zoning Administrator.
Phil Devanza, Selectman.
Chris Nato.
Mark Warden.
Gayla Brook, Recording Secretary. Barbara Griffin.
Brian Hansen.
Richard Meany.
Simone DeHamel, alternate.
Great, thank you. And this evening also we have an applicant Tim McKernan, who is going to be an alternate also on our board. I want to welcome Tim as well. He's sitting here with us this evening. Minutes, yes.
He's been all sworn in and everything, so he's officially an applicant. He's officially an alternate.
Officially an alternate, good. Congratulations, Tim. You're welcome. Tonight we do have the 5 members of the committee, but we may...
7 members.
The 7 members of, I'm sorry, wrong committee. Yes, the 7 members of the committee, and we're all here tonight and accounted for. Minutes of March 28th, 2013. Any comments?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I need to just add to that, too, that Patty had asked us to make sure that the motion to approve the time extension for 1 year to expire March 28, 2014, with previously imposed conditions of approval for Jan Bonneville's property. Would you like to say something on that?
Yeah, I think
Right.
the clarification that she was looking for was to make sure that it was for 1 year. The extension time period was for 1 year and the date to which it was extended to. So that way it was...
So you're looking for
In
an
the record.
amendment to the minutes to reflect that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, where is that? What page?
2.
Patty,
Where-
I think Patty gave us a memo in our revised packet tonight.
Richard, do we need to address that then in the motion?
So modified.
Second.
Modified by Richard and seconded by Phil.
For 1 year.
I didn't say when.
Yeah. Oh, she did send an
Yeah,
email, though.
I sent the email. I didn't see anything.
Do you know the date specific?
It would be 1 year from the motion.
John just read it.
March 28th.
March 28th.
2014.
What's that? Want to take a vote on those, on the minutes
As amended.
as amended? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Do.
Opposed? Abstained?
Aye.
Brian abstains. It's 601. Next on the list, appoint the representative to CIP committee. We had someone that that had volunteered, I believe. I
Can I just speak to that a little bit?
certainly can.
I attached in your amended packet tonight, it's the first one underneath your action items list. It's just the CIP's committee process for membership. And if you look down, the third paragraph down on that is the following departments each nominate one representative to serve in the CIP for 1 term. Planning Board is expected to make their appointments such that they are announced as stated above. Planning Board, the first bullet point says, Planning Board serves as the CIP committee chair. Now, that's how Tim was, and, this is part of the rules handbook for the CIP committee. And so whoever is decided upon tonight as the Planning Board representative would also be acting as a chair according to the rule book for the CIP.
Hmm.
As the planning board adopted back in 2009. So,
Thank you, that's a good point.
Um,
to consider.
I don't know, in my mind, that means let's nominate him quick before we have.
Nominate him quick and-
Volunteered for that, right?
No, economic development.
Oh,
He took the 5-year term.
Does he want both?
No, I'm good.
And Brian, can that be an alternate, or does that must be a,
well,
how does that?
in looking at it, I couldn't find anything that said specifically that it couldn't be. I don't know how many times it's been that way. You know, probably most of the times any committee representatives come from the full members.
Mhm.
But, I mean,
Don't you think the CIP could change their rules to allow for a different chair?
well, I believe that would be a planning board decision. So if the planning board wanted to allow for someone else to be the chairman, they could do that. I know, for example, Earl Carroll has been on the CIP committee for a long, long time and would probably be able to do that and have a smooth transition kind of thing versus if Tim were to take on a chair position right off the bat, it may be a little bit of a rocky road. I'm sure he could probably do it, but it might be good to have someone who's experienced on the committee to be there. I don't know.
I'm willing to serve either way, either as chair or have somebody else who has more experience on that board as the chair, if you want to modify.
Okay. Has anyone here been on that committee before? Do you have any, and you have the two senior members of the committee. Would you have any thoughts or input on that? Would that be something that we could change or any? Yes, Barbara.
The chair of any committee is much like the chair of this committee. As you know, your role is to run a meeting.
Right.
And I understand that our would-be representative is going to law school and is employed and
Right.
has been on committees or groups before, so I guess, we could send some spies to the meeting and decide that if it's not going all right, then maybe we need to change the rules of procedure. I mean, I guess I'm not as worried about that. If CIP was a first-year endeavor in this town, I might be a little hesitant about it, but as Brian has pointed out, there are some members on that committee who have served in the past that have many years of experience, and I'm not aware that we have any new department heads, so the department heads are familiar with the process. From my standpoint, the result of a committee always require a group vote, so I am perhaps not as apprehensive about the possibility of a new member being the chair.
Phil?
I tend to agree with that also. It's traditionally been a member of the planning board that chaired it. As Barbara pointed out, it's not a new committee. Basically what they do is they look at the 7-year plan. They have new applications that come in that they're going to look at. They're basically going to look at the year, and they're going to look at the other projects. As long as the member that we send is comfortable with it, I don't have a problem with it. He's got Brian. The members that are there have been through it, and the department heads, and it's not like it's a brand new committee and they're trying to invent the wheel.
Right. I would have to agree with this. I think it'd be fine. And
Sure.
Great if we have somebody that wants to do it.
if somebody
more
wants to
power
do it, I think that's even better. So we need some action taken on this. Appoint the representative to CIP committee. Tim has offered to sit in that position. the planning board representative. No one else is going to compete against that one, so
Make
could
a
we
motion
make
to have Tim be our representative to the CIP committee.
Okay.
I'll second. Tim McKernan, just so that we're not
Not the other, yes,
invoking our past chair.
right.
Maybe Tim's.
That's right. Okay, we have a motion by Rich and seconded by Phil. Let's take a vote on that. I think it's going to be pretty easy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous, 7-0. Congratulations, Tim. Good luck. Right. And a lot of experience there to help you with that.
I'm sure we'll just establish a procedure and some wiser and more experienced heads will be fine.
Oh, yes. There's some great people on that one. Okay, let's see, how about review the rules of procedures? Is the next in line.
Your Honor, if the chair would entertain,
Beg your
I started to say it because I've been in court a lot the
I'm
last 2
sorry,
weeks.
that's fine.
No,
You're excused, that's fine,
Thank
no
you.
problem.
I don't know.
That looks
But
like a black robe he's
Right,
wearing.
it's
Close
my
enough.
black, it's the black sweater, yeah.
Need a gavel.
We've got a number of items on here, and I noticed that some of them involve people who want to serve as an alternate, so I'm sure that they want to stay and listen to our fascinating business here tonight. And given that I think we have applicants here who have been noticed for sometime at 7 o'clock or after,
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to amend the order of business tonight and move to old business, new business, and the rest of the agenda.
I second that.
Okay. Very nice. Barbara makes a motion, seconded by Brian. Okay. Take a vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Very good. We're going to move right into map 3, lot 32, waiver of site plan request for proposal to use vacant property for the storage of landscaping material, which will be transported to and from the site. Hazelton Outdoor Services, applicant in Goffstown Harvest Christian Church, owner Route 114, Daniel Plummer Road, Cody Avenue, and St. Anselm's Drive, zoned industrial. Brian, any thoughts on that one, please?
Yes. So this is a site plan waiver request submitted, and what they're asking for is to be able to utilize the property without having first gone through a site plan approval, by the planning board. They want to use it as a landscaping material supply and storage lot. They're not proposing a development of the site other than, to be able to utilize the site as a spot to put their landscaping materials. They would deal with people from the public who would come and either whether they're landscapers or general people from the public that would want to buy some materials from them, and then they would transfer that material to them, whether it be in their truck or whatever, and that's about it. What I was able to find in our regs is that it's a use of a site plan, it's a use of a property that increases the intensity of present use, and it increases the parking requirements. Therefore, per the regulations, it's required to do a site plan. In this case, it's not a lot of change to the property per se, other than what would be stored thereon and the use that would be occurring thereon. So with that, I recommend that the site plan waiver be approved, subject to a condition that if they do wish to build upon the property and expand their business, that they do come back in and have a formal site plan drawn and approved by the planning board. And that the board make the following findings: that strict conformity would pose an unnecessary hardship to the applicant, and waiver would not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the regulations, and that specific circumstances relative to the site plan or conditions of the land use in such site plan indicate that the waiver will properly carry out the spirit and intent of the regulations. And with that, I'll turn it back to the chair.
Thank you. Any comments? Anyone? Barbara?
What is it that we have before us on this?
The drawing that's before you is a pencil sketch drawing of sort of the general locations where they would like to store their materials on the property. The site, the engineered portion of the drawing that's there was, it was a page of the existing conditions
From the church?
from the church's site plan
Application.
that they did. So, we didn't want it to be construed as a new site plan that's, they use someone else's drawing, but it was just a sketch of utilizing the existing drawing that's on file to demonstrate where they were going to be storing materials and that sort of thing.
All right, if I can follow up with the
Certainly.
chair's permission.
You certainly have
That come into this.
I don't have an issue with the use of this site for this. I looked up the business, this is a permitted use. Having said that, having this, there needs to be some representation that this is what they're doing, because I think your recommendation says, if they want to expand or put buildings on site, they would need to come back and have a formal site plan. So that implies that there's some sort of site plan that we're getting. So I think there needs to be clarification as to, is this what they're doing or not? Secondly, I know when landscape people have, landscape suppliers or sellers to the public have been before this board, we've been pretty careful about making sure we understood exactly how the property was going to be contained on site. Some of it was due to the location being commercial versus other zoning, and so we wanted to make sure that it was okay. Some of it not, though. And having said that, and I suspect that there's going to be more activity here than would be represented, because I know they want a sign, and they're trying to expand, and I get that. So there is going to need to be some parking delineated, and there's none on this site. And I didn't recall exactly what the I'm calling it hatch marks, though it's really not, of what's on this plan was. There's a note on it that looks like it's part of the formal site plan of a loam pile right next to 32A1 that I suspect is not part of what they have, but is sort of confusing given that they're talking about being a landscape supplier and seller. I understand having the piles of mulch like they do. I know they have it at other landscape suppliers. And I'm perceiving that what they have represented for their stone storage looks like maybe concrete berms in between the piles, but I can't tell. And then finally, my concern with this site for this use is the grade of it on 114, which is where they're proposing to store the material in loose piles. That is an incredibly steep slope there. And there has been a lot of clearing on that site, which is perfectly permissible, but we all know that means the drainage on that site is pretty hard. So I don't particularly feel like I want an engineered site plan. but I need more than what I've got, and I think there needs to be consideration of parking and whether the mulch needs to be somewhere else, and the stone storage with berms should be on the hillside, because that will have a barrier constructed to prevent sort of erosion and set off. So I understand what the applicant is trying to do, and I appreciate that the owner is trying to find another use for it, and that this is compatible with the uses in the district. But I think there needs to be some representation of what specifically is going to occur on the site, along with some parking area, because I suspect they're going to have some business, and good for them. And the town isn't going to have any way of really knowing what's going on, and I'm concerned about the erosion. So those are my comments when I looked at it. So I don't know whether that can be done without a formal site plan, and I know, of course, they want to get in there as soon as possible, given the time of year, even though I still have snow in my yard, but I know people are thinking of landscaping. So,
I know they're here tonight, and
I did
probably
see
could
them.
speak to most of that.
Right.
So,
Okay.
But maybe before we ask them to speak, if other board members have looked at this and have any comments, they might bring them up now so they know to address them, and maybe we can come up with something.
Phil?
Yeah, just in looking through what I was presented with, there was no indication as to whether material is purchased and resold as is, or whether the material is processed on site. And when you look at the loam pile is kind of small to that portion of the corner of the property.
Which one are you looking at? Because there's 3 loam piles.
because these are existing loam piles that are part of the engineered site. This is not part of the.
I guess that's what's confusing when you have a pre-engineered site.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
have a
yeah.
landscape business coming, using that site plan.
Yeah.
But anyway, just in looking at that, knowing that, loam is a material that they're going to be selling, and there's nothing in here as to whether or not they buy the material screened. Will they be screening it? Will other people be bringing in raw loam that'll get screened? So I guess that's something that we should know about too, because there's a difference if you having the material trucked in and you're just selling that, whether it's wholesale or retail, or whether or not you're actually doing a processing there, whether you're processing the bark mulch. It's industrial. It's probably a permitted use, but it would be nice at least to know with the waiver of a site plan, because when you have a site plan, you have the information and those specific areas that the stuff is being done. So.
Brian, is this entry is already in here right now from Cody Ave?
Yes, this is a
Entrance.
private, Cody Ave is a private road, and,
Right.
and this is an access that does exist to that private road.
Yep. And that's the access to that land, to that property?
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Brian.
I've seen this from the road many times, but I don't know exactly what's up there now. Do you know what's up there now?
It's vacant land, and this plan is literally the existing conditions plan, so it's just open. There's some slope on it, there's some ledge, and there's a couple of loam piles. That's about it. There's a dirt path that gets you up in there. A gravel path, I guess.
Just a question for clarification, because when I looked at this, in the middle of this, just sort of, I'm on the understanding. What circled as loam piles or existing conditions in the middle of the lot? There's a pile that says brown mulch, a pile that says red mulch, and a pile that says black mulch. Are those existing?
No.
So those are what's proposed, and that's why I was confused when I looked at this.
There's some sketched circles here, and then there's this little sketch thing here. And that is what they put onto the existing conditions plan to basically show where they were planning on trying to store things as they get going.
And you've been up there, Brian, right? You familiar with this property?
I haven't driven onto the property, but, I mean,
Okay,
that's essentially what's there.
okay. Just, I guess, trucks and things like that, I don't know if they're tractor trailer or if they're dumps or, as long as there's enough room up in here, it looks,
And for clarification, Brian, is 32A1 the site that we have an approval that we're doing extensions while he's trying to find tenants?
I believe 32A1 is the lot back behind where
What I'm talking about?
he did the extensions on the buildings.
Yeah, okay.
So he stored some equipment there and
Okay.
other things on that lot.
Thank you.
sounds good.
I'm looking at
Yes, Chris?
a Google view on it on Mark's laptop, and after the grade that Barbara was talking about, there is a decent amount of forest as a buffer there, so even if any mulch were to run off in a rainstorm, looks like it'd be trapped by the trees just fine, and if anyone had an issue, if a lot of mulch would be running off, I'm sure the folks doing this would be fine putting in a Jersey barrier or whatever it would be to block it, something cheap and easy but effective.
Is there a date on that?
It looks like
All it
fall.
says is imagery 2013, Google Maps.
Yeah, that's just the current reading.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Any more questions? Any other comments? Or I want to hear from the applicants. Yeah, how about if we do that now?
Great.
Hey.
Applicant. Yes,
you wanna do?
please have a seat. Yes. Anyone?
Thank you. Heselton's Outdoor Services. We're in New Boston now.
Sir, for the record, what is your name?
Ben Heselton.
Okay, thank you.
We're in New Boston now. Nothing's going to be processed on site at all. It's all trucked in, 1-ton trucks, an occasional 10-wheeler. Nothing too heavy. You're talking about a 5.5-acre site. It's all flat. It's basically grass right now. There's nothing up there. An occasional rock. It's gravel. We're just going to bring in some barriers. We'll put the mulch, strategically where it's not going to run off the hill. We have no problem putting in barriers. I know for a fact it's not going to run off. As fact is it is 5.5 acres. It's basically 3 acres of flat. It's all flat. I don't know. None of you have probably been up there. It's flat, and then you have your hills. Again, it's 5.5 acres with 3 acres of flat land.
Right.
We're only going to utilize probably an acre at most for now. The first year, and then someday we're going to look into buying it. We don't know when. It's really a trial basis. We're trying to grow our business. Again, we're in New Boston, and we're having a real hard time getting people out there. We have all the machines to process loam and manufacture mulch ourselves, but we have a good site in New Boston to do that. So as of right now, we're just going to truck it in. No harm, no done. As far as that goes.
Nice.
So would you have,
Chris?
I don't know, a shack there or something with an employee so residential folks can show up and buy?
As of right now, it's going to be an on-call basis. Sooner or later, we are going to look into purchasing an office trailer. There's no power, there's no sewer, so we'd be looking at a porta potty. This is all in the future, I have to add. So sooner or later, it's going to be an office trailer, a porta potty. It's really, we're going to utilize the sun for, the laptop or whatever, just because we're not sure about running power or sewer just yet. Like I said, nothing, I really have to urge you, nothing's processed on site. All we do is people come in, we load them, and they leave. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Brian?
How does the loam get from the piles to the back of the trucks?
We're going to start with a Bobcat. It's a skid steer. It's a small little machine. It's portable. It's on wheels. That's how we're going to load the vehicles.
Will that skid steer live on site?
Seasonally, yes. Overnight. We can lock it up if we have to.
Well, you'll find out soon enough.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. I hope I don't, but I don't have to find out the bad way.
What about the fuel for that? Will that be stored on site?
The fuel will not be. What's in the machine is the only thing that's going to be stored on site. I have a portable tank that when it needs fuel, I go fuel it up. It sits in the back of my truck. The truck comes home with me every night, as far as that goes. There will be no storage tanks on site at all.
Just more wholesale, retail?
It's going to be for the regular contractors. We give a break. We're really just trying to grow our business and succeed. There will be the homeowners which can come and they get their break as well. We're just trying to get a piece of the pie as far as that's concerned.
Good for you.
Are you guys
Chris.
going to be doing any advertising? I mean, how would a homeowner know that you guys are there?
I have signs. We don't have a big sign. We're not looking at putting in a huge sign yet. As of right now, we're just internet-based, word of mouth. We got, like I said, the occasional lawn sign. Sooner or later, I will be advertising in the paper, and as soon as it comes to putting a sign, we will absolutely come for approval. We won't just stick it in the ground. Just the lawn signs for now.
But you do have plans to try to get something on the road
Yeah,
front?
we do have advertising plans as well, yeah. Any other questions?
Barbara?
Do you know what these hatch marks are in this site plan?
Don't yell at me. No.
I'm
Honestly,
just trying to find somebody who knows what they are.
I'm trying. I'm not good at reading that stuff. I just wanted to give you guys ledge.
I believe that's
There's
ledge.
a lot
Well,
of
but
ledge on the
except
property.
there's this ledge notation over here.
That's a pretty good weave.
Is it bioretention?
Oh, riprap.
It's a big rock.
Rip-rap, right? There you go.
Rip-rap.
Oh,
Yes.
thank
Different-
you.
That's honestly, I'm a terrible drawer. I never did good with drawing. I just wanted to give you guys an idea of what was going to
No,
be
no, no,
there.
I think this was on the drawing before you worked
Okay.
on it. That's
Yeah,
why I was
I
asking.
don't know. I don't know. The conditional loan piles, we're not touching them. Honestly, there's probably a foot of grass on them right now. They haven't been touched in years. Those are staying there. We're not touching them. Anything on the property won't be removed. We are literally just bringing in material, storing it, and sending it out as far as that goes.
Any other questions? No?
I can add something. The only reason why we're asking for a waiver is because it is a time-sensitive outfit, as you can imagine. Mulch, everyone's all excited to get going. We're really just, like I urged before, we're just trying to get a piece of the pie. We have no problem doing it, but by the time we get it done, I mean, it's 4 to 6 weeks to get one drawn up, and we're ready to get going. Like I said, we do plan on building if we purchase the property at some point, and we have no problems coming up with a site plan at that point, but this is just a time-sensitive matter.
That's it. Pretty,
Straightforward.
yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Does anything like customer facilities come into play on anything to do with this? Is that any part of, I know there's no infrastructure, there's nothing there, so is there any need for anything that we need to know about or get involved with, or is it just okay to customer facilities, bathroom, other than the,
I think as long as they have a porta-john on there, then that would cover it.
something like that, okay. So they're all covered, they're good.
Yeah.
Woods. they're good.
Woods, yeah. Old-fashioned.
Right, wood
old-fashioned,
piles, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, great, well, thank you very much.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll go sit down.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Kind of cut and dry. Any comments from the board? Do you want to?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, take a vote on this. Any motions?
I will move to accept
Oh,
the,
it's open, oh yeah, I'm sorry. Open to the public. Anybody,
Actually, it's not a
not a public
noticed
hearing.
public hearing, so you don't have to do a public hearing.
thank you. Right. Any motions? Mark?
yes, I'll move to accept the application for a waiver of site plan.
Any second?
And approve it or just accept it?
I move to accept their application for waiver of site plan as presented.
You don't want to approve it?
Accept and approve?
I don't know. Brian used the term approve, and he has
Okay, thank you. Then I'll start over. I move that we approve the application for waiver of site plan as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Stickler.
Good one, right. Well, let's take a vote.
Can I ask a question on the
Can I ask a
motion?
question on the motion?
Brian recommended a subject to condition to the motion, and the motion did not contain that. I think the applicant made some representations as to what they were doing now as compared to their future use. I would also want consideration that a copy of this application become part of the record, in as much as it's not a formal site plan. We generally have something in the file from the applicant to indicate what the plan is, because otherwise there's nothing in the file if the town receives a complaint to find out what's going on. So those would be my comments on the motion.
Okay, I'll withdraw my motion
Withdraw my second.
and move that we approve the site plan waiver request subject to the condition that in the future, if this business wishes to expand or put any buildings on site, at that time, they'll need to come back to the planning board and have a formal site plan drawn and approved. That approval would be with the findings as given in staff's recommendation, 1 and 2.
Second.
Okay, seconded by,
Going as well.
seconded by Richard. Any comments on that motion? Would you like to speak to it, or no comments? All set, Barbara? Good. Okay, now we can take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No? Any noes? Any abstentions? That was a
Abstain.
abstention, okay? 601. Well, good luck.
Thank
you. You're welcome. All right, we have map 24, lot 63. Conditional use permit hearing for a proposal to add a deck and stairs to an existing newly built home on property that's located within 100 feet of wetland surface water, Conservation District setback, 15 Cove Street, map 24, lot 63A, zoned residential 2. Brian, would you like to speak on this one, please?
Okay. I'm looking in the audience and I'm not seeing the applicant here. However, if the board wants to go forward and take action on it tonight, that's perfectly fine with me. So I'll just give you a quick rundown of what this application is. The applicant had previously come to the board several months back. In fact, it was about a year ago, that he obtained a conditional use permit to construct his house within the outer 50 feet of the Wetland Surface Water Conservation District. And he had gotten a wetland scientist to write a report saying, no, this won't have a negative impact on the wetland resource, and that, and so they basically got their permits and they went forward and built their house. And now that he's got the house built, he realized that there's a significant slope as you go down the hills next to the house. If you saw some of the pictures in the packet, and just in an attempt to have an easier way to get down that slope, they want to build the stairs and some decks that go along with. And so I sort of hated making him go through this whole thing again, because he did it once already. But because it was an additional amount of construction that wasn't included in the original application, he's gone to the zoning board of adjustment, he's gone to the conservation commission again, and they've approved his variance for the setback. He needed a variance for 5 feet of the setback to be covered by this deck and stairs. And then he needs a conditional use permit from the planning board again to encroach in the outer 50 feet of the wetland setback. So that's essentially what he's applied for and is what before you tonight. My recommendation was to accept the application as complete and ready for review, do a public hearing, resolve any remaining issues, and approve the conditional use permit to allow the house to be built within the outer 50 feet of the 100-foot wetland surface water conservation district, and find the 6 findings that are typical for conditional use permits that are also listed in your staff report.
7.
7? Oh, yes, 7, because actually the first one on there is specific to conditional use permits that are in conjunction with a wetland resource. So if you look at number 1, it says the functions, values, and condition of the wetland resources will not be compromised as a result of the proposed project. My recommendation to that is, this is a deck and stairs. He's going to have posts that'll go into the ground. That usually allows for flow of water to go through and normal drainage to occur. So in my mind, that my recommendation is that that meets that criteria. So with that, I'll turn it back to the chair.
Thank you, Brian. Barbara?
Do you mean a conditional use permit to allow the proposed house or the proposed deck and stairs?
The proposed deck and stairs.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that typo. Using an old report.
Cut and paste, we all love it.
So any other comments on this or questions?
I'll make a motion that we accept the conditional use permit application as complete and ready for review, and find that there is no regional impact.
Second that.
Motion by Richard, second by Brian. Any comments on that motion? No? And the applicant is not here, does?
No.
Okay. And, okay, well, let's take a vote on that then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No? Abstention? I didn't hear everyone, but it's all yeses? Okay.
I mean, there's nobody.
Okay, good. All right.
Those who just don't care.
Not here. Unanimous, great. Okay, we'll put that
Just
one
need
down.
action on the actual conditional use permit too. So that was for acceptance and regional impact.
Make for a motion, or, well,
We have to have the public
You need a
hearing.
public hearing, is there,
Oh, right,
We
you
are
need
as
a
public hearing.
public hearing first too. Yeah.
right,
Okay.
which will be scheduled, or,
No, it's tonight.
it's, okay.
Right now, if you.
If there's a public here that would like to speak on it. Is there any, let's open the public hearing up for anybody that would like to speak on map 24, lot 63. I don't see any, so let's close the public hearing. Okay. Next.
Next would be if there's any remaining issues, or take any motions to approve or whatever.
Yeah, any motions to approve?
Sure, I've
this
got one for you. I'll make a motion that we approve a conditional use permit to allow the proposed deck and stairs to be built within the outer 50 feet of the 100-foot wetland surface water conservation overlay district, and find that 1 through 7 as listed by the planning and zoning officer.
Second.
Motion by Richard, second by Phil. Thank you. Want to speak to your motion? No, no set on that. It's kind of simple. Let's take a vote. How's that? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
No. Abstentions? 7-0. 0. Thank you. Okay. That's it for new business. Right? New business. Southern New Hampshire Planning. Other business? Presentation by Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, before we get to that, can we address the applicants for alternates?
For alternates?
Do I have to make a motion for that, or just request?
Yeah, we can, yeah, if you don't mind, you take a few minutes and, let's get the applicants. Yeah, might as well. That's a good idea.
I know it's a good experience for them, but
It's a
maybe
good
they have other
experience,
things
yes.
to do.
Yes. Great, well, let's do the applicants here. I think that we can get through that pretty quickly. We've got an,
Sorry, Jack.
yeah. Try to get through this relatively quick. Leah Waltzko requesting to serve as an alternate. Need some action on this.
Do we hear presentations first, or you just want to know, we approve the nomination, then hear from them? How does it work? I forgot what we did last week.
I think it would, well,
I think
best to hear from them.
hear from the applicant, sure.
Just explain a little bit about, what they would like to do, or why they want to serve on the board.
I would agree with that,
And
yes.
the board can vote on each application. There are 3 applications before you tonight. Just as a matter of point, there are 3 open alternate positions, 2 of which are for 2 years, 1 of which is for 1 year. So that would just be up to the board, I think, to determine how to appoint those people as they see fit. So.
Great. Why don't we hear from the first applicant, Leah Waltzko? And you can introduce yourself to everyone.
Hi,
Thank you.
Leah Waltzko. Live over in Pinardville. Been here 14 years now. I am interested in the position of alternate because I really do want to get involved to help in some way, do something useful for the town. I don't have any experience on a board like this. I did work on cases in the court that dealt with planning issues, and I did find them interesting, and so at least I have that bit of background knowledge and, familiarity with the terms and the concepts involved. I don't know if you have any questions. I was a teacher. I'm not working right now, so I do have some time. But I worked in the court for 17 years, and then I taught for 5.
Great. Any questions for the applicant? For those of us that know Leah, we know she's a very hard worker and very committed to getting things done. So,
Excuse me.
no problems though. Yeah, I think we could probably vote on this right now if we wanted to accept Leah as an alternate.
So moved.
Okay, Mark?
Before you make a second, we have to address one of the things that Brian brought up, and that's the terms. As you know, we have three three applicants tonight. We have three open positions. Two are 2-year terms, one is a 1-year term. I don't know how we're gonna address who gets what, but I guess we could ask each applicant which they would prefer, and then perhaps after we talk to each applicant, then we can vote on all three afterward, just a suggestion, your board, not mine.
Okay, yeah, we could vote on all three.
Is this open discussion time?
Sure.
We also have an application in the packet that I have from Patty Gale saying that there's a Scott Calendar that also wants to be included as a volunteer. So that makes 4. Perhaps we should give everybody their fair chance, not just the people that are here, to say their piece. So maybe if we heard from these folks here and from any other person that wants to volunteer.
Three. Dave Pierce is for alternate for the Southern New Hampshire Planning.
So we have 3 openings and
Including
3.
Scott, he's the third.
Yeah, Scott's number 3.
Yeah, we have 3 openings and 3 applicants that want to be on. Okay, well, let's hear from, let's see, yeah, we can do that. We can vote at the end. We can hear the applicants and take a vote at the end of the meeting.
Just a question, though.
Yes, Phil?
Would it be wise to ask the applicants if they had a preference, whether it was
Yes.
1 year or 2 year? Well,
Sure.
Yeah, so we
If
can,
you have a
sure.
preference, let us know, I guess.
What do you,
I guess I'd prefer 2 so that I can improve the time or get better at it.
right, take you at least a couple of years to.
Yeah. Just to figure it out.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Leo.
thank you.
Well, we can go right down in order, I guess. Well, let's see. Appointment papers for Tim McKernan. Were those,
Do we need to sign that?
do we,
Yeah, you should have them in your paperwork. I think we can do that after.
okay, we can do that after. Scott Calendar is requesting. Is Scott here this evening?
I don't believe he's here, so.
Okay.
I know his paperwork is in your packet, and if you wanted to, vote on it tonight, you're welcome to. If you wanted to wait till a night when he wants to come and present himself, that'd be acceptable as well.
Probably a good idea to wait till he comes, and we can. I would do that. Calvin Pratt, we have another applicant.
Before we move on
yes.
from Scott, please, Brian, Scott indicated a number of committees that he was interested in serving on. And so I guess what I'd sort of, before he comes, and I think one of the things we need to do on rules and procedure is discuss how we do this, because to say this is an awkward procedure is an understatement. But, you know, I don't know what contact he's had with the other commissions as to what nights they meet, what he really wants to do, what their availability for alternates or or some of these are just appointed boards anyways. So, you know, I guess I just want I would just think it would be helpful if he would clarify as to those issues before he comes back. I mean, I don't certainly have a position one way or another. If people want to serve, they certainly should, but I've served on a lot of boards or committees, but I can assure you I wouldn't want to serve on all of these at the same time. So, and I know that's not going to happen, but I think, and we've had members who have been on the Conservation Commission and also on this board, and you know, an alternate is certainly not required to come. You know, you don't expect them to necessarily come, but I'm just noting as compared to the other applications that we saw, this one has multiple boards, so I just had that question.
Great point.
Certainly a good point, yes.
I'll try to have him clarify, you know, which one is his first preference, I guess, if he wants to do that. When we had contacted him, he sounded like he was interested in planning, so we forwarded on to you. but
No, that's fine. I would just hate to have him be on the planning board and want him really to be on something else, and for them to say, well, you're already on a board, we'll take
Yeah.
Joe
Right.
Schmo,
So we
because they're
can-
not on anybody's.
Or vice versa.
We can invite him back another night, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we can invite him back, sure, and someone else can certainly put their name in for that position, because it's still open as far as I think we'll be concerned tonight.
There's one alternative that we could do, is we could review it and we could accept it subject to him accepting it. And let's say he got accepted to the budget committee and was on the budget committee. I don't know if he would want to be serving on a budget committee and the planning board, so.
As long as that wouldn't discourage anyone else from
No, but
thinking that the position might be full and they don't want to.
just that Brian indicated that there was an indication that he was interested in planning when you spoke to him.
Yeah, I like that alternative, Phil. When we get to voting, maybe if we decide to approve anybody, if we were to approve it subject to his acceptance of the position, I like that.
he has to agree to be sworn into the position before it's official anyway, so.
Right.
You know, if he doesn't want to take the position, he doesn't have to get sworn into it. So, I mean, that's.
Correct,
I think
yeah,
it's
but it will remain partially, kind of temporarily, it's partially open at that point? It's up to him to refuse it, or is it
Well,
open
yeah.
for someone else to put their name in for that position
If the board,
and
the
take
board
it?
votes to appoint him, then that position would be held for him. And unless he gets sworn in, I guess, you know, it would be sort of tied up until we make a determination one way or the other. If he, we would have to ask him to make a determination on acceptance of that, but other than that.
Okay. Can take that up after. Well, let's hear from the next applicant. No more questions on that one? Calvin Pratt.
Thank you for allowing me to be here today. My name is Calvin Pratt. I've been a resident in Goffstown for about 8.5 years. I've served one term on the Budget Committee and one term as a trustee of the trust fund. And my primary interest in the town level business is for its economic development. So I have an interest in both this planning board and also zoning. I'm serving on my third term as a state rep on the Executive Departments and Administration Committee, which deals with licensing issues as well as the executive side of our state government. And as I mentioned, my primary interest in this board is in the area of economic development for the town. I did make note over the last few years that we've seen a shrinkage in our tax base for commercial. And I'm a little bit concerned that we're moving in that direction because we really do need to think a little bit more about expanding commercial. And the more I know about planning and zoning at the town level, the more effective I can be both, I think, in Goffstown as well as at the state level. So I hope this will be a learning experience if you decide you want to have me on the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cal, for stepping up. Any questions for Cal? Richard?
If we were to so approve, because we have a 2-year term available and a 1-year term available, do you have a preference?
2 years would be fine with me. It overlaps my current third term at the State House, so they would probably both be expiring at more or less the same time.
Great. Any other questions for Cal? With that, thank you very much, Cal, for
Thank you.
coming forward. Next, number 8, David Pierce, requesting to serve as an alternate on the Southern Hampshire Planning Commission. Recommendation needed?
Can I speak to that, Jim?
You certainly can, yes, thank you. Please.
For the record, my name's Tony Martz. I'm currently one of the town's alternates to the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, and I encourage David to apply as an additional alternate. I know that my schedule over the past year or so has been somewhat chopped up, and I've had some difficulty attending, so have some other of our commissioners. So an additional alternate, I think, would be helpful. David has got a background as a civil engineer with a lot of experience in transportation and logistical issues. Those are critically important for our town, starting back a couple of years ago with the I-93 widening, and now with the exit 6 and 7 project going forward, which I'm sure you know about and you're going to hear a lot more about. David, as a selectman's rep, was a member of the technical advisory committee to the DOT. So he's got a lot of inside information, so to speak, and details on that. And I'd just love to see him be able to continue to participate and lend his expertise in some of these issues as we go forward. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have a recommendation? Do we have a,
You want to vote one at a time?
well,
on
we
these,
can
or-
vote all, I guess we can vote all of them at the end of the night, yeah.
We can, I mean, my question was, do you want to vote or make motions, for example, on Leah Walsh go first? Or do you want to make Leah Walsh go, Cal Pratt, Scott Callender, and David Pierce all at the same time motion, or whatever
Make 'em
way you
separate.
prefer?
Make them separate, yeah.
Why don't you do one for Southern New Hampshire Planning, since it's only one?
And it's a different motion, because it's a vote to recommend,
Exactly.
it's not a
Right.
point.
That's right. It's a vote to recommend, right?
Right.
Whatever you want.
Right, the Board of Selectmen appoints
I'm-
the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission members. So
You'd be open to a motion?
I'd be open to a motion to recommend.
How about, I would make a motion to recommend David Pierce as the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission alternate.
We have a second for that one.
I second that.
Brian, motion by Richard, second by Brian. We'll speak to your motion, speak to the second, no? Let's take a vote on that then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No, nay, abstention, 7-0. Good, thank you. Thank you, David, if you're listening, for stepping up to this. Good luck. And for those, do you know David has been instrumental in the rail trail also? For those of you that don't know that, he's been the leader of that, so we have a lot to thank him for.
And the Lions Club and the Historical Society and the
Very active.
popcorn stand and you name it.
And a
Yeah.
past selectman,
Popcorn stand?
right?
Yeah.
Right,
Well, it's part of the Lions Club.
right. And a past selectman, so really appreciate David's continued. Letter from Economic Development Council recommending a public hearing to be scheduled for the Southern Hampshire Planning Commission. Ready, set, go.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Sorry, you didn't see my hand earlier, but can we take care of the other votes for the alternates too at this time?
Sure.
Okay. Appreciate your indulgence.
Go ahead.
I'll try making a combined motion on these if that's okay, or. Do I see any?
Let's
Okay.
make a combined motion. Well, let's make a single, right? Yeah, let's just say.
Single,
Yeah.
combined, single? Okay. Make a motion to accept Leah Walshko as an alternate to the planning board for a 2-year term.
Second.
Okay. Want to speak to that motion?
No, thank you.
Let's take a vote on Leah. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions?
Abstain?
Abstain. 601.
Motion to
Another motion?
approve Calvin Pratt as an alternate to the planning board for a term of 2 years.
Second.
Second. Motion by Richard, second by Mark. Any comments? Any questions? Question, Phil?
What's the quorum for planning board?
4, right? There's 7.
We live in we operate in a fishbowl.
Correct.
Okay.
All of New Hampshire government does.
Okay. That would put for that has the potential of putting 4 members, I believe, or I feel, in what I perceive, if I was one of those 4, as an uncomfortable position. Just point that I wanted to bring up, because those 4 would be a quorum.
Could potentially be.
No, it is a quorum. 4 members together is a quorum. I mean, we do have an ethics policy.
Right, and if any 4 members of, or if any quorum of any committee at any level of government gets together to discuss committee issues, minutes need to be taken.
I think if you look at it, the fact that you're together constitutes the quorum. And the concern that I would have if I was in that position of having the perception of people that would see me with the others constituting a quorum that's an unposted meeting, I would be uncomfortable. I'm just pointing that out. I don't know how other people would feel.
So you're suggesting, for example, if the 4 of us, if Cal were on, and the 4 of us that are state reps, and we're all in the same building up in Concord at the same time, that could be considered a quorum for this
You're
body?
having lunch together someplace, you're having breakfast together, you decide to meet over at the restaurant, outside the courthouse, outside the Capitol, any place that you're together. I'm just saying that is a position that I myself would not be comfortable in. I'm just pointing that out. I mean, that's 4 members, and I'm not saying that you do discuss that, but it gives the perception to other people. We're a land use board, people come here, you have people that are applicants, you have people who are abutters, they have opposing views, land use boards are taken to court, we all know that. And I perhaps look at it at a little different perspective than other members here, because I'm also very aware of the legal expenses that the community goes through, and I myself, as individual, would not feel comfortable putting my community in that potential situation. I'm just bringing up I mean, everybody has to vote their conscience. There is no statutory, it's up to the individuals. We do have an ethics policy, and everybody takes it upon themselves. I'm just saying how I would feel uncomfortable in that position. That's all I'm saying.
My understanding is that it just doesn't require people, but it also requires the topic. For example, if after this meeting, you and Chris and Tim and I discuss in the parking lot participating in the May 17th Goffstown Main Street Program golf tournament, I don't think that would be a quorum of the planning board discussing right-to-know type issues. That would be 4 people discussing what they're going to do in their free time, or 4 people having lunch. I don't think our ethics policy prohibits people here from having social activities together. It's when we do business of the town together that has to be open to the public.
I agree with you 100%, and you said it. You said, I don't think. I don't think, but other people that drive by, that see that,
sure,
they see a quorum number together in a parking lot, in a restaurant, in the park, someplace else. That's the perception. I'm not comfortable with that. If I'm with 2 other selectmen someplace, okay, and we're discussing, it could be something completely different. But people see 3 selectmen someplace. Their perception is different than my perception. I'm just not comfortable putting myself in that position.
I know 2 Halloweens ago I saw 3 selectmen passing out candy in front of Town Hall. I thought nothing of it.
It was also posted. Posted meeting because it's discussed at the selectmen's meeting, and because we're gonna be there, it's posted at both places on Town Hall. It's a posted meeting.
Were there minutes?
I think if 4 or 5 of us are at Planapalooza at the same time,
That will also be a posted meeting of the planning board.
There are certain legal requirements and certain precautions and certain planning issues that traditionally boards have always considered in regards to meetings outside of a posted, regularly scheduled meeting that might be construed as something other than mere chance. And I think the issue is whether or not it can be reasonably forecast whether there would be scheduled meetings of a quorum. And that's the reason I think it was brought up. I had no idea. It was the first I thought of it, quite frankly, when Selectman Devanza brought it up here tonight. But I can tell you I was not surprised to hear that in regards to the Halloween candy being passed out, it was a posted meeting, because those kinds of appearances were quite often made the subject of accusations from people in regards to having free and open government and knowing when representatives or elected members were going to be together. So,
it's a good point. I'm all for transparency in government.
And if it helps, we're on 4 different committees at the State House.
Well, it is that unfortunate circumstance. I don't think that only the 4 of us have been together that I can recall. And you're concerned more of outside of here rather than inside.
Sure.
I'm concerned, I'm trying to express how I would feel if I was one of those 4. Okay? That's why. And the position that I could put the planning board in. Okay? And as was pointed out, people see 3 selectmen together, right away, oh, look at that. They're having, what are they discussing? Okay? As it was said, a posted meeting to hand out Halloween candy out here in front. Okay?
Amazing.
But I'm just saying, that's why I said we live in a fishbowl, and the hardest thing about being a public official on a local level, okay, is the unintended consequences of your actions. And you're held to a higher standard. It's unfortunate, but you're held to a higher standard. I always have to look and think of something that I do, what is the perception of that? It could be totally harmless, but what is the perception of that? And we all have to vote our conscience.
Apologies, I might be a little ignorant on this. Is this just because it's 4 alternates, or do the alternates hang out together normally? Are they buddies? I mean, I'm not trying to be, I'm just wondering, is this 4 alternates that would run into on any board? Is that, just wondering.
Anytime you create a quorum outside of a publicly noticed meeting, whether it be alternates or members from any board or any committee, you would run into this type of scrutiny that someone could say, that is a formal public meeting that should have been publicly noticed, and they would question what is being discussed during that meeting.
No, I completely understand that. I guess what I'm saying is I'm not understanding what the difference is between 4 alternates and, say, this board of 7. That's what I'm not understanding.
A board and an alternate is considered the same when you're creating a quorum.
Okay.
So if it were 3 alternates and 1 member, or even 4 alternates, that could be considered a quorum of the planning board.
Even if they're not doing business, is that what you're saying? I understand the perception that you're talking about.
I have 91A right here if anybody wants to hear it.
But even if you're not discussing business, I understand the perception part. That's something that
91A say?
Okay, this 91A refers to the statute, RSA, Chapter 91, I believe, -A:2, meetings open to the public. For the purpose of this chapter, a meeting means a convening of a quorum of the membership of a public body, or the majority of the members of such public body if the rules of the body define quorum. But in this case, it'd be us is 4 as a quorum. Whether in person, by means of telephone, electronic communication, or in any other manner such that all participating members are able to communicate with each other contemporaneously, subject to the provisions set forth in RSA 91, -A:2, Roman numeral 3. For the purpose of discussing or acting upon a matter or matters over which the public body has supervision, control, jurisdiction, or advisory power. A chance, social, or other encounter not convened for the purpose of discussing or acting upon such matters shall not constitute a meeting if no decisions are made regarding such matters. It goes on, there's some other paragraphs. I think that's the meat of what we're talking about.
I think Phil's point is not to argue that point, but to argue that it's the perception.
Perception. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Guilty until proven innocent. Basically, right?
Right.
No, it's the fact that you're...
And that can be taken further to say that, you know, if someone sends an email to another member of the board, and that email is then forwarded to another member, and they respond or talk to it, and then that email is forwarded to another, or an email is sent to 3 or 4 members of the board, and they all respond to it, that is also considered a quorum in a meeting and should have been posted kind of thing.
That's an outright violation.
Right.
That type of email communication, just for the board's education.
Right.
When we get an email from Brian, though,
when it's
to all
providing
7 of us.
information to you, it's one thing. When it's asking for a decision to be made, that's another thing.
And absent direct emails in regards to a specific point on meeting or some other process rule, I think you'll find generally that email communications from staff seem to always find their way into the correspondence file, so they're part of the official record.
Okay, well, we understand 91A is pretty clear. Statute, we understand what perception is, maybe. Might perceive to understand what it is. Do we have a motion, or do we have we have a motion? Yes, we have a motion.
Do we have a motion on the table?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
To accept Cal for a 2-year term. It's the motion.
And that was, the motion was by, did you make the motion,
Probably
Richard?
by me.
Yeah.
And seconded by Mark? Okay. Well, let's call the vote. It's, and there any more comments? I guess the only comment I would make is, we have openings, we don't have applicants. Speaking for myself and the rest on here speaking for myself, I would not talk business or try to have any meeting formed of myself if I was ever in the same building or room with anyone that may be of question, and I would assume that we'd all follow that same rule. So with that, let's call the vote. All in favor of, just do a show of hands, that way we'll have that. All in favor of having Cal be the alternate to the planning board? Show your hands by saying yes. All opposed? Any abstentions? No. 4-3.
The vote itself creates a question.
That's right.
Moving on.
I can assure that, well, anyway.
I'd like to make a motion to accept Scott Callender as an alternate member to the planning board for a term of 1 year, subject to his acceptance of our
offer.
Okay. Do you have a second on that one?
I'll
For
second.
Scott? Phil? Phil seconds. Any discussion? No? Okay, let's take a vote on Scott. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay, 6.
And Barbara
Yeah.
abstained.
Barbara abstained. So 502. How about the letter from the Economic Development Council recommending a public hearing be scheduled for the Southern Hampshire Planning Commission, Ready, Set, Go, certified site proposal, copies distributed.
Mr. Chair, that's just a recommendation. Basically, the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission came last night to the EDC and made the same presentation that they're wanting to make tonight. And they recommended at that meeting last night that the planning board hold a public hearing before making a decision on this. But we still want to have David and Jack make their presentation tonight, and the planning board can decide what they want to do with it thereafter.
Okay, great. So that's that. Wonderful. Well, now we'll have the presentation by the Southern Hampshire Planning Commission Certified Sites Program. Discussion on rules and procedures.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Planning Board tonight. Thank you for entertaining us while the computer is turned on. Let me pass around a notice of a public workshop.
I think we have it. Is this
We
it?
have a copy of that? Okay.
Thank you, Jack, yeah.
Very good. This is scheduled next Wednesday, April 17th, so we invite anybody from the board or the public to attend this meeting.
As Jack is passing this around and as the computer is getting booted up, let me give you a background of where this program has come from. Several years ago, about 3 years ago, the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission was very concerned about economic development within our region. It's a big concern to create employment and jobs for the various towns. And one of the recommendations that came from the plan was from a national site selector economic consultant that said, one of the best ways you can do is to promote economic development in your community is by instituting a certified sites program. Now, this program is not, it's unique for New Hampshire, it's unique in New Hampshire, in New England. There is no other region in New Hampshire, there is no other state in New England that has a certified sites program. It's a way of marketing the sites that you have identified as being, that you want economic development to occur nationally. So you're getting a presence nationally to your community. This is a national program. The closest state that has this is New York State. It's Jack has a map that shows all of the states that have a certified sites program. And you can see it's basically where economic development is occurring in this nation right now, in those states. So we're very happy to be here to present this new program. It is very exciting. It's very simple, but I think it could pull in the type of businesses and the type of firms that you would like in Goffstown. So Jack, why don't you
Okay,
take it away?
thank you. As you can see in this first slide, this was a program between the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission and what's now formally known as Access Greater Manchester, which is a regional alliance for economic development. That Access Greater Manchester used to be Metro Center New Hampshire, and that's now changed to be the Access Greater Manchester Alliance. And Goffstown is a member of that alliance, along with all the other communities in our region. So this is the premier business development tool of the Access Greater Manchester Alliance. They've been promoting this tool for the last couple of years and giving us direction as to go ahead and proceed with it. And we've hired a marketing consultant who helped us with this branding of the logo, Ready, Set, Go. And as you can see, this is in partnership with DRED, New Hampshire Economy.com, Fairpoint, Centrix Bank, Public Service, and most importantly, New Hampshire Commercial Industrial Board of Realtors. David and I actually personally went out to all of these partners and met with the presidents and the economic development staff to get support for this program. So it's strictly all privately funded. And as David mentioned, this is the very first time that we've had a proposal for a certified sites program in New Hampshire as well as the New England region. The closest state is the state of New York. And so we feel very fortunate to be able to bring this program out and roll it out to all our towns. It's an exciting marketing program and an economic development tool, but most importantly, it provides an advantage to property owners and developers looking to move to a town and build and develop on sites. But it's an economic development tool for communities because it helps promote greater collaboration between the sites and applicants in developing those sites. And I mentioned that last bullet there. It gives property owners more time to market their certified sites, thus reducing their pre-development risk and costs. As everybody knows, these sites are all over different real estate listings. They're on multiple sources of information, and as economic development professionals and staff look for sites in different states, they have to go through multiple resources to find the appropriate site that they're looking for the business. So by putting that Ready, Set, Go label on those sites, on those websites, it helps reduce their time in finding sites to develop. As David mentioned also, it does bring national worldwide attention to our region and to each community participating in the program. More importantly, it does allow for a longer plan approval period of time. Typically, most planning boards give a 1 or 2 year plan approval with conditions, and this doesn't change your standard planning board processes for reviewing and granting approvals. All it does is say we will then give a 5-year plan approval instead of the typical 1 year. Does everybody understand that? Okay.
It doesn't change the ability of the planning board to attach conditions. It just lengthens the period of time. That's
Exactly. That's exactly correct. Yes. And then this last check mark here, it provides an opportunity for the planning boards to consider soft cost of $25,000 or more in engineering, architectural, site plan, legal fees, etc., that a property owner developer would have if they were trying to seek an exemption of their property from zoning. So as you all know, the planning board, review plans for meeting the definition of active and substantial development. And as those conditions are met by the applicant, they're trying to get their plans vested and be exempt from future changes in zoning. So this is just another consideration in your toolkit of potential definitions for how you define active and substantial development.
The up to 25,000, is that come through Southern New Hampshire Planning as a grant, or how? how does
No,
somebody
this is
access
the
that?
cost of the developer or the property owner.
He was there. So Jack, would you say that that is, if the developer can demonstrate that they've spent up to 25,000 or more on this project, that that would constitute the active and substantial development and would then vest them? Is that?
No, it would be just, it would be just one of those considerations by the planning board to vest them. You might have other conditions that need to be
Okay,
met.
so it could be a decision that the planning board makes if they want to
Yes.
allow it to be vested. That could be one of the reasons why it's vested.
Yes, it could be one of the reasons. And it's like a menu approach. You could have many different options on your
How to
menu.
attain active and
Yes.
substantial. Okay.
Yes. So it's kind of a unique thing from that standpoint. So what does this do? I think you pretty much understand what it does for New Hampshire. It helps these site selectors come to our region and quickly identify these Ready, Set, Go sites. And David mentioned that this is optional. The participation in this program is strictly optional. Planning boards would have to decide to make it, to agree to participate in the program in order to open it up to property owners to seek certified sites applications. So it's strictly an optional decision on your part of the planning board. If you decide to proceed with the program, we've generated kind of a model site plan regulations amendments, a kind of a generic model amendment for your consideration. So we asked you to maybe take a look at the wording in that site plan regulation amendment and make sure that it meets whatever you feel needs to be addressed with your site plan regulations. Maybe have your town attorney look it over and so forth. So what is a Ready Set certified site, or Ready Set Go certified site? Well, basically, it just very simply, it meets these checkoff points. It has to be either a building or a site on a parcel of land greater than 1 acre in size. It needs to be zoned for either industrial, office, mixed use, or a combination of those zones. It has to have a boundary survey. There needs to be an asking price or a rental rate for the property. There could be a phase 1 environmental assessment, but that's strictly at the option of the planning board of the applicant. But more importantly, there needs to be a zoning verification and a list of approved uses for the site. Typically, many property owners like to obtain that when they go out and get financing for a site. They'll come into your town code enforcement officer and ask for a zoning verification or a list of the approved uses for a site. And I'm sure your code enforcement office issues a lot of letters like that already. So that's it. And then there's 3 levels of certification. Level 1 being the very simplest certification level. What that process would involve would be the applicant would go through the typical concept plan review with the planning board, and that's a non-binding review. And then after you review the concept plans with the applicant, and if the applicant indicates to you, the planning board, that they would like to seek level 1 certification, they would ask the planning board to endorse their application to the planning commission. And that's strictly this level 1 certification. Level 2 certification requires that you, the planning board, go through your typical site plan or master plan approval process with the due diligence for making sure the applicant meets all your regulations. And then level 3 requires level 2 certification, but more importantly, a utility plan showing the availability or the provision of utilities to the site. So that shows to the site selector that the site is a little bit more shovel ready for development. So that's kind of the gold standard, the level 3. You've seen these before. This is just an example of a concept plan for the level 1 certification. And again, it requires the vote of endorsement from the planning board for submittal of the application. And level 2, of course, the site plan. This is the only time the 5-year plan approval by the planning board could become available through the site plan. The 5-year plan approval would not apply to the concept plan or level 1 certification. And then, of course, a master plan is a great tool too. So we have been making this presentation to pretty much most of the planning board so far. I've got to go to Wyndham and meet with the Economic Development Committee tomorrow at 7:30 to continue the discussions there with the town of Wyndham, which is considering this program. And when we met, we had a committee, and your town planner, Brian Rose, was on the committee. Tony Martz participated, and we came up with this very simple program approach. And then as we were developing it, Derek Horn gave us this map that showed the town of Goffstown here and the Route 114 corridor as being a potential area that you may want to look at for having certified sites within your community. So this is just kind of an example, an idea of what you could have. So what do you need to do? What are the steps the planning board would do? Very simply, the very first thing would be to review these materials, review the program, see if it really is a good fit for your community. If you feel it is a good fit, take a look at your town zoning ordinance and your zoning map. Look at the corridors like the 114 corridor and the zoning districts on those corridors, and actually identify some areas where the certified sites would be appropriate for the zones in those areas. Then step 2 would be to hold a public hearing, get public input from the community, decide whether you want to participate in the program. And then step 3 would be to have a public hearing and go ahead and amend your site plan regulations to authorize the program and identify the zoning districts or corridors that you'd like the program to apply to. And then if you vote to participate, then we would ask that you please send us your public hearing minutes and a copy of the site plan regulations that have been amended. And then lastly, we would encourage you and hope to work with you that you would place this on your town website, distribute program materials and brochures to the public and so forth, so that potential applicants could come back to you, the planning board, for approval. And I think that's pretty much it. David, is there anything else you want to add?
No, again, this is new for New Hampshire, but I think it could be a very powerful tool to promote your town and your economic development, the lands that you would like to see developed. And it puts you in the proactive seat instead of reacting to development. It gives you an opportunity to put your lands out there and to bring those companies that would be a better fit for your lands in Goffstown.
And we do have an active website, which is live now for the Ready Set program, and we could bring it up and show you real quickly if you want to take the time to look at it.
If not, we can just leave you the website address, and you can take a look at it on your leisure.
I actually looked at the website. I liked it actually very much. They give community profiles where towns basically sell themselves, for lack of better terms. But how is this being brought to, let's say, a company in California? How do you advertise
Oh, that's
this?
a good question. On the Jack, show them the websites that this program will be a part of.
So,
these are the partnerships.
yeah, let me go back. There's a direct link from the partnerships to each website that partners have currently. I'll go back to another page.
I think it's in property search, isn't it?
No, I think it's participating. Well, here, let me show you this page. This shows the profile for Goffstown that was added. And we certainly would like your review of these profiles. And it's just a brief description of the town of Goffstown and the economic assets profile of the community and a picture. And so as a site selector looks at the town information, they would go in and look at these little profile, brief descriptions of each community. But the websites are accessible.
I think it's on property search, maybe.
Let's check there. No. I know where it is. It's under contact. Additional resources. Here it is. We're going to have to eventually move this up front. We're still making a lot of changes to the websites, but it's kind of a work in progress. But as you can see here, this is the uscertifiedsItes.com website. And all of these darker states are currently participating in Certified Sites program. And as you can see, there's none up here in New England. So when this program becomes live and we get a link, a description to the uscertifiedsItes.com, this New Hampshire would be darkened in right here. And so,
and besides the National Certified Sites website, we will also be on the New England industrial and commercial website. And what will distinguish us from the other sites that are being advertised is, again, the Ready, Set, Go certified sites, which means that this town is serious, this property owner is serious about having development to occur.
Right, and that's this database right here. This is the New England Commercial Property Exchange. This is the largest exchange of commercially available property in New England right now. And New Hampshire Cyborg is participating in developing and placing sites on here. Real estate agents work with property owners and they get a profile put up on this site. And so when they put a certified sites up here, that logo, Ready, Set, Go, will be flagged directly to those sites. And there'll be a link established.
Yeah.
So New Hampshire Cyborg is working with us to set that up right now.
Any chance that this would ever go on like the Chamber of Commerce sites?
Yeah, we would like it on the Manchester Chamber, that Greater Access website.
Okay.
So you can see here's like a featured listing here in Dover. 2 rental investment properties are available. You click on it and you can kind of see the module that will come up. Oh, hopefully, here we go. So this is the type of listing available. That Ready, Set, Go logo would be right up here in the front someplace. Probably there would be a category added right here. And it contains the photograph of the property. Sometimes there's a kind of a Google map that shows a street view of the site, and you can do a surround view. But it has all the information, the square footage, the sale price, the date it was last updated, some of the property information, contacting listing agent, and I'll scroll down. We would also post the site plan that you, the planning board, approve to this site as well, and the conditions of approval and the record of decision. Here's the example of the street view they have of the property. It's kind of a surround view. And then there's also a map showing the location of the property. And here's all the partners that are helping to make this property exchange viable. And Novus Engineering is actually a partner with New Hampshire Cyborg as well as Public Service New Hampshire. And Public Service of New Hampshire also has a website of commercial properties, and it's Ready, Set, Go website will be linked to theirs too, in addition to this site. And it will also be linked to the NewHampshireEconomy.com website. So there's a lot of multiple locations where these certified sites properties can be identified on different websites.
Thank you.
I've heard some developers in the past describe frustration from site selectors about properties in New Hampshire. Could you talk a little bit about what kind of advantage a program like this would give us over other places where the decisions are made countywide, like for instance North Carolina?
Yeah, North Carolina actually has a certified sites program, and the advantages are, like I mentioned before, when the site selector goes through these big databases like this, they have to spend hours doing a search. Here, if there's a certified sites listing, they can click on it right away and see the Ready, Set, Go label and know that that's a site that's available right now.
And that the level 2 and 3, there is 5 years of vesting that's attached to it. So instead of the 1 year or 18 months or 2 years, and the unknown that might come after that, they are guaranteed that that site with its approvals are going to stay that way for 5 years.
So the guy or girl that owns these businesses, is that attractive to them and from a sense of like speed to market?
Yeah.
Is there some implications for that? Could you talk a little bit about that, please?
Well, we've met with a couple construction companies, Langley Construction Company, Steve Langley here in Goffstown, and he was very interested in the program, and I have a letter of support that he's submitted to you, the planning board, to consider participating. So I think the developers and property owners see it as helping the speed to market with their properties.
Have there been any studies done about that being a pivotal thing that companies are looking for?
Yeah, I think if you go to the New York State Build It Now Certified Sites program, and you'll see at the front of the program the amount of retail sales that have been completed as a result of of property to builders and to companies going through their Build It Now Certified Sites program, and it's in the billions of dollars, just in New York State alone. So there is some statistics. Now, how they come up with that, I think they have a certified sites coordinator that works with the state, and you could talk to that coordinator. I can give you her name and phone number, and you could ask her how they calculate that information.
As I understood from Dr. Bluestein's presentation, that was one of the fundamental things they were looking for. It wasn't quality of life. It wasn't, the tax breaks nearby. It was basically, a shovel-ready area. And that's basically what you're proposing is access directly to that, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. Quality of life is important too. So is having a good qualified labor force, educated labor force.
In community colleges.
Community colleges.
So we have many of the things in place.
We do.
In this region, yes, we do.
But we would probably want to beef up that little blurb about Goffstown so that when they go on there and they read that, they think, oh yeah, this could be really great.
Definitely.
It's very it's a first try right now. And,
Sure.
we hope to expand it, add to it. That's the sort of input we would like to see.
What do those partners have that you had? You had 4 banks, an engineering, and
Yes.
What role are they playing? Are they?
Well, number one, they came up with some financial support for us because we went to the Department of Resources and Economic Development in the state, and they did not have any funds or capacity to handle this program. And we felt that this was too important not to do this. So Jack and I went out and we solicited funds and support from the people that you saw there. First, we went to PSNH. They sponsored us for the first year. that we met with the planning staffs, the developers, land use attorneys, to develop this whole program. And then the second year we went out to try to come up with money to help come up with a marketing package and to then market it to all of our communities.
Right, and the funding that put us over the edge was a grant, a national smart growth grant through the New Hampshire Cyborg. We applied for it and were not funded the first year, but we reapplied the second year and we were awarded $5,000, and that got us over the hump to get this program developed.
Did you need to achieve any modifications of the RSAs, or was this all
No.
possible with the existing land use regulations?
It's all possible. Right.
Can I speak to that? I worked with Karen McGinley from the Divine Office, who's also on the Bedford Planning Board, and Ben Frost from New Hampshire Housing and Finance. We volunteered to look at this very early on. We considered doing this through zoning ordinance changes. We considered doing it through statutes, a statutory change, but in talking to a lot of the planning directors, we came to the conclusion that if we could do it through your subdivision and site plan regulations, the planning board has more immediate control. So it's really rolled out as a test project, because you can adopt those regulations today, and then you could modify them as your program develops, just by having another public hearing and changing your regulations. That lets everybody kind of learn whether this works, and if it works really well, then perhaps we could roll it out, through a change in the statutes so that it becomes more of a fixed program. But I think you've got an ability to modify your own regulations, to do things as Jack has suggested here, to have a menu of different things you like or you don't like, so that as you're approving a project, you're really tailoring it to your particular needs in the kind of control that you need. The other important thing to understand is if you approve a master plan with a 5-year vesting period, that doesn't mean they're going to build the building that you saw. They likely, and you will likely have a condition, they have to come back with final elevations, with traffic, with the ultimate use, and all kinds of issues that are much more technical. But what it gives them is a plan that they can go out and sell. And that's really the key. It's really a marketing program as much as anything else.
Oh, it's good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
It's a letter of
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming.
I realize as I'm writing this, that we probably should have.
Did you get one of these? I used to do in school all the time. I never got me any.
That one.
Because I'll tell you, that teacher can
I didn't
see
get the,
everything that's going on in that
package that
classroom.
got
Even though when you
mailed out.
sit in the back row, you
What,
think
you-
they
you
don't
mailed
see
it
it.
to the wrong place?
No, I just haven't checked my mail yet.
Revelation, subject to
I think
teaching
that's the
words.
thing.
Oh, they really could see everything. Have you ever been to one?
So it's probably sitting there.
We
No, I was
don't
gonna say,
have
'cause you
someone
wanted that one, you
encouraging
could
you
take
to go, but it's an education.
Not bad.
But I mean, it's sort of the issue of, remember the road that we proposed at one point on a ballot? Go behind 114A, sort of across from the animal rescue, to get access to some of the back commercial land.
It's way down,
And
way
just
down.
the town would pay the development. There's a term for it, I'm not even, it's sort of the same concept, which comes first, the chicken or the egg, yeah, it's the same, but like.
Okay. Next presentation. Let's keep moving here with discussion on rules and procedures.
No, I get that.
Would anyone like to discuss the rules and procedures?
Make a motion to adopt them.
We already adopted them. I think
for this year.
we have to re-adopt them?
Yes, Brian.
Excuse me.
Certainly.
Are we going to talk about making a motion to hold a public hearing on the presentation we just saw, as per the recommendations of the Economic Development Committee? that part of what we're doing tonight? Letter from the Economic Development Committee, public hearing scheduled. Is that an action thing?
I think we did that. Is that a motion?
I move that we.
Before you make that motion, can I ask a question?
Yes.
With the chair's permission of Brian and John, I know you're involved in this. In connection with the Pinardville project that's going on, what kind of public hearings or meetings are going to be going on for that? And I missed the Tuesday meeting. I remembered it at 8 o'clock, sorry, and I wasn't in Goffstown. But I know that there's all sorts of planning going on in regards to that. I'm just wondering if there's going to be anything specifically involved in that with the planning board that, I don't know whether we want to keep it separate. I'm just thinking about noticing public hearings and having people come out, and whether or not, knowing there might be some with that, we'd want to consolidate it.
You talking about doing a public hearing for this certified sites thing and the Pinardville project?
Well, I just don't know what kind of public hearings you think will be coming along on that project. That was my question, I guess.
I would not want to kind of mix this in with the whole Planapalooza thing,
Okay.
which is May 3rd through May 7th.
You mean that's an official term? The paper just didn't make that up?
No, that's an official term.
Okay.
Yes. Planapalooza is on paper. See that?
Did you coin that? Terrific.
No, I didn't.
I know. I've
This is,
seen it.
Okay.
That was from our consultants. They coined it. They actually used it in Londonderry as well, and a couple other towns I think they've used it. But I think they're trying to trademark that term as one of their official terms. Anyway, I would try to keep that
separate
sure. From that, just because there's a lot that'll be going into that whole project, and we want to make sure the focus is in the right spot. That being said, we will have future public hearings for the master plan and smart code, but that won't be further on until the end of the year. So if we wanted to do something sooner than that regarding certified sites, we would need to just look at,
When?
a separate meeting and when that would be. He just handed me the draft recommendations for what the.
That was what I was going to follow up with. It seems to me we need to have a discussion
Need to
about
have
it
that
with
in
that
hand.
document.
I think maybe a workshop to review and maybe
Before a
some town
public
attorney,
hearing.
like what he was suggesting. There's a few steps probably before we do a public hearing. It would be okay to vote to say, yes, we agree that it's a good idea to do a public hearing on this. In fact, we would have to do a public hearing in order to amend our development regulations. So, I mean, to take that recommendation and say, yeah, this is what we'll do, that seems like a good process to take. But to necessarily schedule that public hearing now, we might want to just make sure that we're ready to do it before we do the scheduling and the noticing and all of that.
So should we schedule a workshop? Is that what you're saying?
In conjunction with the meeting, probably.
We could schedule a workshop. It's up to the planning board. We do have nothing on the next agenda, and although it would be really nice to cancel a meeting, we could make that into a workshop to discuss this. Up to you.
You have the documentation that outlines what we would be asked to consider implementing in Goffstown, because I know we're not going to implement a PowerPoint plan. But you have
No.
the documentation that we'd be asking to put
Right.
into our.
That's what I just said. He just handed me the actual proposed language that would be for the development regulations, which it's just 2 pages. Seems to be pretty simple, but it could be passed out and we could discuss it at a future meeting. It doesn't have to be in 2 weeks. It could be in a month from now or whatever, whenever you want to do it. It could be at just a regularly scheduled meeting and we discuss it at the end, however you want to do it.
That's it? All set?
I do want the planning board to vote somehow on what to do next week, though, since there is no actual applications that would be before the board next week.
You mean since our
What is
rules
that,
of
the
procedure don't give you the power to cancel the meeting?
That would be the,
Call it a chair, isn't it? Or did we
No,
change
I was
it?
thinking one of the amendments we should do is add him in the list of people that can cancel the meeting.
Yeah, it's the chair that cancels the
I
meeting.
think the rules say that you can do it, John.
who wants to cancel the meeting?
You do.
You do. You want to be here next week by yourself?
Absolutely.
Okay, you
That's
can
what I signed
do
up
You
for.
can be here, there will be no meeting, there will be no quorum. Not even Brian will be here.
But he doesn't vote.
That's right.
Well, we could cancel next meeting.
Okay. Chair says.
Okay, let's cancel next meeting. And we will, right, come back. That's a good one. Okay with that one. So this letter to the Economic Development Council recommendation, we're gonna just leave that. It's not really an issue that we need to vote on, or,
I don't necessarily think so. I think it's just a recommendation from them. And since we have to do it anyway, I mean, we'll take that under advisement and say, okay.
I can see from being there last night, everyone was pretty fired up about this to learn more, and they really wanted to stress the public, us trying to have a public meeting on it.
I think it's one of the best things I've seen them present since I've been on the board. So I really like this concept.
According to those guys, there's no cost to the town. The cost is incurred only by the applicants that are actually, trying to sell the land. I had asked them, how's it advertised, since no one in New England really knows about it. How do developers really know about this? If someone is local that's trying to go on here, is it in the search engine optimization? So if you do a Google search on it, things pop up? And the answer was yes, and apparently several people that were familiar with commercial construction said that some of these sites they're very well known throughout the industry. It seems like a good thing to at least look into. I mean, at no cost. Why not?
And it's optional.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, it's optional. But it's for 5 years, they don't keep coming back here during that time, and
Yeah, I mean, the
getting
whole thing,
reapprovals.
from what I got out of it, was the whole thing was basically so the planning board and the town sets the rules up and says, okay, this site's good to go. We guarantee for 5 years the rules are going to stay this way. So if you're coming in and you want to build or buy this land and put up your building, bring your business in, you don't have to worry about on year 3 we're going to change the rules and you've got all this time and money invested, and now we're going to say no to you. So that's the whole purpose, to say that we're really serious about bringing in business.
This may be something like what Jan Bonneville keeps coming back for. This would be a perfect example to take care of Jan's project.
Depends on the zoning. I don't know what her property is zoned.
I don't think it's zoned.
Just might be the RSBO 2 zone, which might not fall under this category. But,
Okay.
because it has to be.
So it's not
well,
commercial with the...
Well, actually,
But she has an office,
I think
proposed
it
office
did
on
say
that.
something about mixed-use zones.
Yeah.
She was
Say
in here
mixed
last
use.
week.
So that is kind of a mixed-use
It was
zone.
in-
We might be able to make that.
Right. But
We
something...
might be able to
yeah.
make those determinations at the planning board, which zones we feel they apply to. But anyway.
But that could make it easier for applicants to not have to come back every year. If things are not working right, they can come back in 5 years. Seems really good for them. Let's see, what else do we want to talk about?
John, you asked me at the beginning of the meeting if I would just.
Yeah, please, yeah, that's...
I know we've sort of
Next
just
big event.
briefly touched on it just recently with the past discussion, but as a point of just announcing this to the public and to the public, those who are watching on TV, we've got Plan Pinardville is a master plan and smart code project that we are looking to do, and this advertises a Planapalooza, which is a 5-day planning intense workshop event that will have a multiple presentations, public presentations, and workshops for the public to be able to come in and participate in a planning process to come up with visions and plans that would be defining the future of what Pinardville could become sometime in the future. So I just wanted to go on record and show and tell what the dates of these public presentations are. We've got an opening presentation on Friday, May 3rd, 6 o'clock p.m., and it's at Goffstown Square, the Goffstown Harvest Christian Church Meeting Hall, and that's 542 Mass Road. Then there's the interim pinup and review, which is Sunday, May 5th at 6 o'clock, and that's also at Goffstown Square, but at the Bank of America space. It's the old Bank of America, and then the closing presentation will be back at the Goffstown Harvest Christian Church Meeting Hall on Tuesday, May 7th at 5:30 p.m. And during that whole time, there will be an open design studio, which will be from Saturday, May 4th through Tuesday, May 7th, and that'll be at the Bank of America space. So the Bank of America is going to be the open studio, and they'll do the interim meeting in that space. And then the other two presentations, opening and closing, will be both at the Goffstown Harvest Christian Church space. And both the owner of the bank space and the Goffstown Harvest Christian Church have graciously allowed us to use their spaces, and we're grateful to them for offering that to us. It's a really exciting project, I think. We got a grant to do this and wouldn't have been able to do it without the grant. Grant comes from the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority, and it was offered to multiple other cities and towns in the state, and we were lucky enough to get the max amount allowable, $50,000, and I'm just really excited that this is going forward. It's in about 3 weeks from now. You're going to see people out in the community, canvassing the community, handing out these flyers and posters, trying to get them up on people's walls. You already see possibly on the police sign, there's some notices that have been put up, as well as Bill Surratt's sign, his new LED sign. He's got a notice on there about it. And, several community members are getting involved in this, and I'm just glad to be a part of it.
Right. It's going to be an exciting time. We also, when is the next meeting? Want to say something about it for anyone that wants to come by and volunteer for this?
For the committee meetings?
For the committee meetings that we have.
The committee meetings are going to be, the next committee meetings are going to be the Planapalooza time.
Okay.
So, really, I think the best thing for if the community wants to come out and get involved is to come to the citizen workshops. And probably the best one to come to is the first one, the opening presentation, 6 o'clock on Friday, May 3rd. And that'll be the time when we kind of get the ball rolling and get everybody's input. And then from there on out, it'll be sort of putting it all together and coming up with ideas and concepts and plans and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And if folks want to get involved before that or just get to know some stuff, they can call me, or you, Brian, here.
John, you're on the committee. I'm on. I've been deeply involved with this whole thing since the inception.
Yeah.
And
Bill Surratt.
Bill Surratt is the committee chair.
Yeah.
You could contact them or anybody that's on the committee, really.
Yeah,
And the committee is all listed on our town website. We've got a web page that talks about it. We've got a Facebook page that people can go on and check things out on there. And the Facebook page is facebook.com/Plan Pinardville. The website is www.goffstown.com/Plan Pinardville.
Mm-hmm.
And look up my telephone number if you want to call me.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun in Pinardville. Also, the meals will, we are looking and asking for donations. Any restaurants want to contribute to the meals for the cruise, they certainly can. If you have any extra gift certificates around, please feel free. We do have to feed some folks that are coming
You're
up.
offering free oil changes too?
How many people are you looking to?
In different flavors, yes.
And I noticed in the
How many
paper
people,
today,
10, 12 people, 10, 12, how many?
there's gonna be about 10 that would need to be fed for a meal.
Yeah. And for a
Is that
week?
each night?
It would be, for lunches and dinners, they would be looking for, a meal for the team kind of thing as a donation.
Yeah, so anybody's looking
So-
to donate something, money, gift cards, food, cook something, whatever, gotta feed these 10 people.
And just as a point, the media jumping on this, we've been giving them information, and there was 3 different places in the Goffstown News today that talked about the Planapalooza. And one of them is there's going to be a student art contest, and that the students will be able to get involved and be able to kind of get their ideas out on paper as to what they think, from a child's perspective, should be our plan for Pinardville. And to me, that's a great way to get children's perspectives on things. Sometimes you don't always listen to the children, but they've got some pretty good ideas. And they don't always have the same inhibitions about saying what their ideas are, because they're just children and they haven't learned to be inhibited yet. But so that'll all be coming. In fact, the notices went out to the children today in their weekly notices to the schools. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Anything else?
Anything on the interviews the week of the 22nd? Any more information?
4 of you so far have responded to the doodle poll that I sent out via email. If all of you, actually Brian also responded, even though he didn't do the doodle poll. Not going to be able to be there, so he'll be out of town. But if the rest of you can also either respond to me either by email or fill out the doodle poll, that would be great. We do want to have as many people as possible participate in these interviews. We've got spots enough for everybody. And, I would look to, if we can't fill them all with planning board members, I would look to maybe see if the selectmen could fill any of the spots that were available as well, just as policymakers for the town. I think that would be my recommendation. So, if you guys could all go back onto your emails and find that link and fill that out, that'd be great, if you haven't done so already.
Okay, anything else? I think that's it. Do we have any motions to
Motion to adjourn.
adjourn? Okay. Motion by Richard, second by
Brian has a comment, I think.
Brian.
Second it.
Oh, okay.
Second it,
Thought you
okay.
were-
Welcome, Leah, Cal, Tim, anyone else? Brian.